to episode 431 of the Steel Cage Podcast. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as Santa Claus, at least around my household. And we wish you all a very Merry Christmas and welcome you into a very special holiday edition of the Steel Cage. Joining me is the Prep and Landing team. First, obviously, he's the Lenny to my Santa Claus. It is none other than Uncle Beek.
Hey, I got the Santa beard next year. Maybe I'll flock this motherfucker.
I love it. Oh, it looks beautiful. You look beautiful. Yes, I love it. And also joining us, the other half of this team, it's the founder and proprietor of thesteelcage.com, and one of the other Santa's elves. It's Mr. Joshua Schlag.
Hey.
Couldn't think of the other name, but it's Wayne. You're Wayne.
I was thinking
Josh.
Squiggy, Lenny and Squiggy.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, again, happy to have you guys here. Happy holidays, no matter what you celebrate. And Josh, do we have any emails?
Yeah, actually.
We do, right?
We do.
What? No way. After all this time.
It's a Christmas miracle. So the email this week comes from Dante.
Hello, writes, Dante.
Hey guys, I hope all is well during these crazy times. Thanks for putting out the pod. Uncle Beek, I take a shot of 100 milligrams of THC with you every pod.
Oh, fellow
actually,
degenerate.
I might take one as I write this email.
So he's taking one? I'm going to take one.
All right, we're doing this. Hold on. Oh, well, you're way ahead of me. I'm just going to do
smaller, Derek. I got a much smaller one.
You guys are nuts.
You're going to control this whole podcast soon, Josh.
Right.
My goodness.
You'll have to steer the entire ship.
Good luck, Josh.
This is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, so Dante writes this email, and then there's several line breaks. So I could just only assume that he actually went and did a 100 milligram shot before finishing.
I appreciate that attention to detail.
Indeed.
And then he writes, so is it just me, or did tonight's episode of SmackDown, meaning last week, of course, show us how Roman Reigns will eventually turn back to face? He's obviously going to blame Paul for brainwashing him. Thoughts?
I don't know. I don't disagree with him at all. I think that anything that they've laid the groundwork for as far as Roman Reigns goes does go back to Paul Heyman. I think that will always be the key factor in his turn and his thought process. They can always fall back on that being, the out. So the only thing I would disagree with I don't see this being any kind of signal that this is the light at the end of the tunnel. I think Roman Reigns will be heel for a very long time. I can't imagine them changing direction at any point soon because of how well it's been working.
I'd probably agree with Derek on that last sentiment about it. Of course, Roman's eventually going to turn face. That's going to happen. I don't think it's anytime soon. I don't think this version of Roman would admit to being so easily manipulated that Paul Heyman was the one that did this.
That's what I was
Especially
thinking.
when Heyman was talking at one point and Roman was basically like, Paul, I got this. So I could see him saying, hey, Paul, you're the reason there's a wedge between me and my family for sure. But I don't know if he's going to blame his change on Paul.
Right. And I think that's probably a safe bet. I just think that with WWE, sometimes they're a bit lazy, and no matter what, that will always be an out for them as far as his, the doctor behind the monster. You know what I mean?
I could see Heyman actually betraying Roman quicker, like he grows no longer useful for Heyman, and maybe he sees a shiny new penny that he wants to take the career over for. I don't know, but yeah, I don't see it happening anytime soon. This Roman is too good. WWE actually figured something out organically. It's pretty impressive.
It's really impressive. It really is. And I mean, on one hand, like we've said before, it's something that you felt, they should have recognized at an earlier stage. But it's kind of like a chicken or the egg situation, man. I just still don't know if we would feel this way about him now if he wouldn't have the entire history that he's had. Had they turned him
100%.
heel earlier, had they not done some of the stuff, had they not tried to, shove him down our throat at times as we perceived it.
Agreed.
Had they not tried to make Roman look strong, but
so strong.
So strong. But he had a really great match, to be honest, at TLC. I thought that they went really hard in the paint, to be honest.
Holy crap. That was a match.
I was incredibly impressed by how far they went. Unnecessary at times, in my opinion, but awesome. I thought a lot of the matches actually delivered, with the exception of one that we'll discuss, but yeah, definitely I thought the Roman Reigns match delivered. I thought I just think Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens have chemistry together. I think what they've done bringing Jey Uso into it has just worked extremely well. And I mean, I don't know, man. I hate them and I want them to be beaten. That's the fan side of me, and that's the perfect position to be in for what they want, because I'm doing it kind of with a smile where I'm like, I hate them, but this is awesome.
Dude, the match was so great. A lot of times with so many players in a match, it can get really muddled and convoluted, and you're like, okay, clearly this guy is not going to win, but there was still believability the whole time that Kevin Owens was going to pull this thing out.
Right.
Normally I'm like dicking around on my phone a lot of times during a match and I don't really pay attention. My eyes were glued on the television the whole match.
And you're right. Like, it felt, they gave it that they gave it the feeling of Roman Reigns being overpowered, but then they also gave Kevin Owens like that, the dog in a corner kind of feel where he's, at any time,
there's nothing else he can do. He has to keep fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's KO. He fucking just did an amazing job at selling everything that they did and still coming back as that underdog. And it was brutal at times, though. Like the stuff that they did, just beating him with like tables and chairs all at the same time, like everything. It was great, though. I thought it was really, really, really what this situation needed. Going over the edge, habitual line stepping.
And clearly the program's not over. I hope they don't end it with this cage match. Normally a cage match on the following show is pretty much an ender to a feud, but I hope they keep it going, depending on how it plays out. Oh, wait, we already know how it plays out. Were there spoilers already for that show?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I'm sad.
No. Spoilers suck, man. I will say that, like, it's really hard if you don't watch the live show to not know major moments happen, but
or about how our buddy, good old Uncle Dave Meltzer, saying that Charlotte was definitely going to be, or current plans show that Charlotte will be Asuka's partner, which a lot of people assumed, but Dave basically gave it to us.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that one?
I love Charlotte. I love the way that she came back. I meant
more about Dave telling everybody it happened.
That part sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, that part sucks. It's pro wrestling, right? I mean, the knowing someone's coming back takes out 75% of the air out of that return. You know what I mean?
Even if all of us assumed it would still be like, hey, what we assumed actually happened, not that we knew.
You feel differently when you assume it's going to happen, because there's that sense that you put it together yourself.
Yeah.
Right. It's different when someone in a position like Dave Meltzer is in tells you, because you trust and believe him. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, well, Meltzer spoiled that shit for me. I'll never forget thinking back to Jericho's return at a Royal Rumble here in Phoenix, and how, for me as a wrestling fan, that was top 3 moments of me being at a live show, because of how the lengths that they went to keep Jericho and, being in that Rumble secret, including running some fucking bullshit in the airport so people didn't see him and everything. Like, just going to unnecessary lengths just so somebody wasn't like, hey, I saw Jericho on a fucking red eye to Phoenix. Like, obviously he's going to be in the Rumble, right? Nobody goes to Phoenix. Like, nobody's, it's not
because
LA
he's
or
randomly
something.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so that's a big part of it. You know, it sucks, and it's hard with wrestling shows that aren't live, and it's hard with a lot of professional wrestling because there's just so many people that, you know, blow it in some way, whether it's performers on the show or people that are in the know. People can't wait to be first, and they can't wait to blurt it out there. So even if it's not Meltzer, stuff gets around, and people, you know, even if someone that's not a journalist tweets it out that they have credible knowledge about it, we'll all know. You know, it's the way it happens. It sucks, made it a little bit less special, but it's very cool to see Charlotte back. She's an incredible performer, and the women's division definitely needs it. You know, they have a lack of big stars, especially on Raw when it comes to the women's division. So her coming back is huge for Raw.
So what do you think they do with the double titled Asuka? Is they're gonna have her do a run with Charlotte for a while as tag and hold up the title as well, or just have her break off and, you know, lose that singles title and then stay together with Charlotte? I don't know.
I'm
sure right now it's basically two titles are held up with one person.
Yeah.
With a women's division that has plenty of superstars.
She's Asuka 2 belts. Asuka 2 belts. I'm sure that they're going to do something along the lines of a conflict between the two.
Yeah.
They'll probably do an odd couple thing, and it will result in Charlotte essentially becoming
for the actual title.
What's that?
For her going for the actual title?
Yeah, going for the women's title. I feel like that's where this story is gonna, you know,
tag team champions together in a title match. Oh, it writes itself.
Mm-hmm. Especially when it's Ric Flair's kid. Woo! Thick Flair's kid. That's right. Look at that thick boy.
Look how beefy he was.
He's so beefy in that. He's so beefy in that.
So beefy. Yeah.
Can you get that shirt on pentagonzo.com?
It's not mine. I very rarely wear shirts. I found it randomly online. Yeah.
Oh.
I was thinking about actually just starting making shirts that I want to wear. Just buy them for myself.
That's exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
I think that's a great path to follow for artists and entertainers. Do something that makes you laugh or you would enjoy. And everyone else will follow suit.
Seems kind of masturbatory, but whatever. I might as well do it.
Yeah, why not? These assholes put me on a shirt and they all bought the shirt. These motherfuckers. You should see it. It's awful. It's available on the steelcageshop.com. That's not a plug. That's just a thing I said. We had the Hurt Day, the New Day, and the Hurt Business. The Hurt Day and the New Business.
Wait, I need to hear the Hurt Day come together. That would be rad.
The Hurt Day. Yeah. The New Day versus the Hurt Business for the Raw Tag Team Championships. And it finally happened where the Hurt Business got over and steals the Raw Tag Team Championships away from the New Day. Great match again. These guys match up really well, and they put on hell of a show. It was just really, I think, a bit surprising. I don't know why. It felt like this was the right payoff at this point, you know, to give the Hurt Business that have done an absolutely outstanding job as a group, you know, all the gold. So you got the U.S. champion and the tag champions now.
Now they're all their accessories match their t-shirts. They're covered in gold from head to toe. Yeah, long time coming. I wasn't necessarily surprised because I felt like this was the right time. And then also eventually the New Day 11-time tag team champions. We'll get that
eventually. Absolutely.
Yeah. But these guys deserve it. They are running the show. They've been running Raw the whole entire pandemic. That's basically been their show. So well deserved.
Also, two great stories after they won the championships. One being that Shelton Benjamin apparently went to Shad Gaspard's house and celebrated being tag champions with his son, Shad's son, which is just a really cool moment. And then the other thing is that Big Swole, which is Cedric Alexander's wife, tweeted out that they were going to be the slurp business. So, Cedric Alexander got himself his own post-match celebration. Congrats to both of them for the way they individually celebrated that victory.
Fucking hilarious.
The slurp business. I don't even know what to say. I can't have no follow-up to that.
That's good.
So we had I wanted another match that I thought was really, really good. I thought the feud was good and just kind of surprising because obviously not a lot of people give her this credit, but Sasha versus Carmella. I thought that was a really good match. Build up the feud between them. I've really enjoyed it, to be honest, and I just wasn't expecting to. I just found myself enjoying it. Would you say the same?
I did enjoy the match. I find myself hit and miss with Sasha. I mean, not necessarily in ring. She always gives her all in ring, sometimes to her own detriment. But yeah, I do like this angle. I like Carmella, even though I don't really see her change as far as the personality is concerned. But I like this new presentation, I suppose. The sommelier is really funny. That's kind of a nice touch.
Yeah.
I like him. It's a good feud to get into whatever's next. I don't know. I can't see them continuing this. Can you?
No, not really. But I think Carmella fits really well as a heel, and I think she's really found her groove. I give her credit because she seems to be the type of person that's done whatever's asked of her and kind of always put her heart into it, and at times she's been good. Like she's been really good. And then she settles back into being, like a sidekick for R-Truth. So
even that stuff was super great.
Right. And that's the thing is even when she's asked to do that stuff, she knocks it out of the park because she was fully committed to it and gave it her all.
Yeah.
I think this is a really good fit for her though. I don't know where it goes from here. I feel like this is kind of like when Drew won the belt, where they're going to give Sasha a series of, challengers essentially that she'll
easy
kind of
victories, so to speak.
she'll kind of roll through one after the other until probably comes back around to Bayley or somebody more substantial, maybe Becky. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see where that all goes.
How soon do you think Becky comes back? Actually, that's actually a good point.
I have no idea, man. I mean, I think one thing I've learned as a parent is this shit goes by really fast. A friend of mine told me that as the best piece of parenting advice I ever received when we were playing Call of Duty one night, and I made a comment about my daughter, needing a bottle or something eventually. And all he said to me was like, hey man, enjoy every minute, enjoy every 3 a.m. diaper change. That shit's going to be over in a blink of an eye. And it was like the most sage, wise advice I ever got. Everything I've done with my daughter has been over in a blink of an eye. And the thing about raising a kid especially is that they just change from one thing to the next so fast. And you get used to that thing they were, and now there's something completely different. It's like a metamorphosis process where right where you start keeping up the pace, they change the tempo, right? So, I mean,
I like that.
It's one of those things that my biggest recommendation is to spend as much time as you can, around them, at home, around them, growing up, whatever you can.
That's the feeling I was getting. It seems like something where she's going to hang out for a while and, be there for the first year and really help upbring this kid, not just saddle it with a nanny, because they've got the money. They can do whatever the hell they want. You know what I mean?
The one thing that I have is that right now they're in a global pandemic, they're in a fixed location. So if they happen to be in Florida, it's like going to work. It's driving to a building and then driving back home. It doesn't seem as difficult as the rigorous schedule that the WWE superstars typically have to go through on a normal, at the normal time of the year when there's not a global pandemic.
But also be a bummer if like mom went to work and got hurt and then had a hard time at home with the kid.
That's very true. That's very true. There's a lot of that stuff though. And I mean, once you start having a kid, that impacts, I think, a lot of your thinking and a lot of, especially the risk taking that you do. She was a reckless wild spirit, you know, and I don't mean reckless in a bad way. I just mean she had reckless abandonment for her own body, and she knew at times when to grab a moment like having her nose busted open and make it into one of the most memorable moments in wrestling history.
Thanks, Naya.
Right? Hey, make fucking lemon out of lemonade.
Damn right.
Or, you know, you go back and you tell life, take back these goddamn lemonade or lemons. I want to talk to your manager. You know, make
I
life
just paint
through
those
the
shits
day.
gold.
Give you some lemons.
What if they give you melons? Then you're dyslexic. That's
what are you still here, Josh?
Melonade. Yeah, no, I haven't watched TLC or any of that stuff, so I don't really know. That's
sure.
I'm hanging out. But you mentioned somewhere in there, enjoy every diaper change, and you know I've got a little one on the way in just a few months here, and I was reading a book and I didn't really realize this, but you go through like 3,000 diapers in a year, like. I just doing the math in my head. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
That seems like a low estimate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
awful. And every diaper change is worse than the last one. Somehow they blew out more shit and it's a different color.
This one's up her back.
Yeah.
The best thing I read in that book was like, don't spend much money on infant clothes because they will be puking and shitting on that like every day, all day. So,
and like even your shit that's like 0 to 6 months, they'll grow out of it 3 months, and you're like, how are you this big already? And then they were like wearing 9 months and 6 months. You're like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's a real thing.
That's what Becky's gonna be going through. Or
you got like 2 or 3 memorable ones, or keep the ones that the people give you at like baby showers and stuff that are special. You know, we had some with like Green Day on them and shit like that. Yeah, those I think we still have some.
It's like your kid doesn't listen to Green Day. Name an album, kid.
Yeah, fake fan, fake ass fan,
fucking poser. You're like Sting.
Yeah.
So I was doing the math on that whole thing, and like, you know, she gave birth early December. We had WrestleMania at the beginning of April. Like, she must have actually just gotten pregnant, essentially, as you know, during that WrestleMania match. She was probably a couple weeks in.
I was gonna say like mid match. Is that what you're saying? Like
in the locker.
It had to happen that weekend.
Yeah, totally.
I was doing the math.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And you know what? WrestleMania season, that's a good season to get it on, my friend.
Sure enough. All right, go on.
I don't even know where to go from this. So back to speaking of genocide, we had Drew McIntyre versus AJ Styles in the WWE Championship match, also a TLC match. Another surprisingly brutal championship match that was very hardcore, and again, kind of I think I'm guilty at times of thinking these guys aren't going to go as hard in the paint as they do because of the level that they are. But I was surprised by this pay-per-view, by that in general, by many of the matches.
So damn violent, especially the TLC matches. Holy crap.
Just some of the shit they did, man. I mean, there was a lot of awesome shit that, like you said, had me glued to the screen. I don't have a lot of memories of it now because I've been wrapping presents for 48 hours straight. But I do remember, you know, The Miz getting involved with the match and cashing in. So the Money in the Bank is now done. Gone?
Not necessarily.
Oh, let's hear this. Go ahead.
Remember Miz's defense. He didn't cash it in. John Morrison did. So he could possibly use some finagling where he actually is still Mr. Money in the Bank. They better do that. It is such a good twist. If they don't do it, it's kind of a miss. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and it's right back up there, backing up his legal claims, stealing it away from Otis the way he did.
Yep, and he's claiming he'll speak to people at USA. So maybe the USA execs step in and say,
this is very Chris Jericho WCW against Dean Malenko, busting the rule book out and just
Miz,
really finding all the fine details there.
Somehow Miz gets better with age, man.
I
He
love
just
it.
keeps getting better.
So good. I actually happened to notice that they recently released some of the Real World Road Rules Challenge on Netflix.
Awesome.
And my wife was sitting down watching it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a thing they used to do with like, you know, the two different reality shows that get them all together and like have a whole thing. They'd get drunk in between all the challenges, and then they'd go out and like do these things. I had no idea that the very first season that they had on Netflix actually does indeed have The Miz on it. Has The Miz, Karamo, who we now know from Queer Eye, and then a bunch of other schlubs. But kind of cool seeing that.
Dude, I love that damn show. I watch it religiously. This is not a Road Rules Real World Challenge show, but we can go into it. Let's
No, we're not going to do that. No. But I will appreciate Miz for what he does and for the fact that, to be honest, I don't know, man. The Miz gets it. Like, again, totally. This kind of goes back to my whole thing with like the kids. It's a finite amount of time that they're kids before they are grown and they don't give a shit and they're off doing their own lives. So you really need to take advantage of being their parent during that, you know, limited amount of time when they're a child and you're their everything and all of that, right? I feel like the Miz not only gets that with his kids, right? And he's figured out a way to make money while spending time with his kids, but he also gets that about making money in general, that he has a finite amount of time to make money. And he is like the classic definition of a sellout. But in 2020, people don't hate sellouts anymore. People love sellouts.
Company man is what I call him.
Well, that's fine too, but not even like just the fact that he understands that like he can, like right now is his prime and he can make as much money as he can now, probably in a short amount of time, like over the next 5 years, and then potentially just retire and enjoy it, or, you know, have a fucking reality show where he doesn't have to be on the road being a wrestler anymore and just has reality cameras around or whatever.
Which is amazing because starting as a reality star, moving into wrestling, ending his career as a reality star. It's a nice.
Well, and then almost using wrestling to just build his, you know, fanship up. People that follow him and are aware of who he is, and people that love him, and then, you know, translate that back into reality. It's just, like I said, on one hand, you could definitely consider it a sellout move, but I don't, because I understand in life, you don't have these opportunities for very long, especially being a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
Look at these guys that were cut this last year, you know, due to the pandemic, due to them not having enough money, bullshit, right?
All these
guys that have gone elsewhere and proven their worth already in a short amount of time. You know, I definitely think Gallows and Anderson are really going to make them fucking regret cutting them, you know, but it's just one of those things where, you know, it's, you gotta make the money while you can. And I appreciate that Miz is just so aware of that. And so, you know, taking advantage of his opportunity to do that.
Dude, you gotta know Miz is amazing, but I'm really loving Morrison in this role, especially when he's like doing the small dog thing. When Miz finishes a line, Morrison will just repeat the last word of the sentence to emphasize it.
Yeah.
It's fucking obnoxious, but so good.
So good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes. It's fantastic. Everything about
there was some some really great quotes. I wish I had written them down knowing that we were going to recap it, but just if you go back and listen to the promos, just listen to Morrison.
No, he's so fucking funny, right? And I mean, like at times I think Raw is getting better, but I think that they're still pretty lazy with their writing. I think they just have better talent and it makes it easier for them to have, you know, more interesting things happen with that talent. I think guys like Miz and Morrison and Bray Wyatt handle a lot of the load on their own, you know, without needing a lot of, you know,
hands-on guidance.
Like, you know, especially watching Miz and Mrs., you kind of see some of the car rides with Miz and Morrison, and they're coming up with their own shit. They came up with a lot of those like music videos and dumb shit that they did when they were feuding with Braun Strowman. and that was them doing it on their own. So I appreciate the fact that they are so, smart and they're so funny. And you're right, John Morrison at the time, just like, there's times where he just makes me think about, who he was coming into WWE and how he's willingly accepted this role, as a sidekick to the Miz, essentially, right? But in such an emphatic way that he's just embraced it and made it his own, and he's awesome with it. You do the thing that fans do where you want to see him not be that anymore, and that will come to fruition. That'll be something that, if he keeps up and does everything that they need him to do, will probably happen.
Makes you wish they would actually take a chance on letting guys who are buddies on the show maybe come up with some content that clearly we know this works. There's guys like the New Day have made it established that they can do that. These guys,
exactly.
Miz and Morrison can. I'm sure there's other guys who are incredibly creative if given the opportunity. They could just create their own stuff.
I think the difference there is guys like Xavier, guys like Miz, they've been in the company for a long time, or they've been at least working for wrestling for a long time, and they kind of get it.
Yeah.
They're smart about the fact that they see if they are the ones that come up with the ideas, then that helps the writers because it does 50% of their job. Now they just got to come up with some bullshit scenario and who they're going to do it against and whatever. But if it sounds good and it's a good idea, then most of their work's done. Of course, they're going to love that and plug that kind of idea into the show.
Sure.
It makes sense. But I still, my favorite John Morrison story ever is a personal one. And it's one of the only times that I really geeked out about something somebody did, right? This was at a Lucha Underground show here in Phoenix that I worked at as a production assistant. And, it was at the State Fair. And my job was just to kind of be a do whatever kind of guy, a gopher. Me and my friend Brian, a.k.a. Pipe Bomb Brian Gregston from this show. Follow him at Guitar Salad. We had a really fun time doing this, but they put our asses to work. One of the best moments of the show for me personally, though, was when the show was winding down. Everybody was putting their stuff away and getting ready to leave. John Morrison was packing up his gear, and he had this awesome American flag headband with like his sunglasses printed on the headband, so that if you put the headband on, it looked like you were also wearing his sunglasses on your forehead.
So cool.
And I just made a comment to him that bandana was awesome. And he was like, "Oh, thanks, man." Like, he got super like jazzed that I commented on his headband, and he was like, "Yeah, I just had these made. They didn't really come out right. Here, you want one?" And he just gave me one. And I was like, "Yeah, I want one." And I was like, "This is awesome. Thanks, man." And he was like, "No problem, bro." And I said, "Will you come take a picture with me wearing them?" And he goes, "I would absolutely be honored to." So next thing I know, I'm out in the fucking outside taking the selfie with John Morrison. And just the whole thing about it was, he could have been like every other, wrestler, not even like WWE superstar or real like super important person, like every other wrestler that kind of would been annoyed by my general requests to do anything further than just comment on his headband. Like,
or he could have been like, "Hey, you want one? $20, dude."
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, he easily could have been like $5 at the very, I would have paid him $5 for it. It was the fact that he just gave it to me. And then he was like kind of like he is with Miz. He just had this childlike innocence of being giddy about the fact that I wanted to go take a picture wearing our headbands. So he like got one out himself and folded it all up and put it on so that we were both wearing matching headbands.
Like, let's go be dorks. This is great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, seeing him on Miz and Mrs. and seeing him in his time with WWE so far, I feel that's like the real him. Like, I feel like he is just kind of that kind of goofy, funny guy that likes to do silly things and gets a kick out of shit like that.
Now it's time your cue. You're supposed to reach over and say, "And here is the bandana right here."
Yeah, no, I do. I have it right back there somewhere. I'm not going to waste time going to get it, but it is like behind me, not too far. But yeah, no, it's just great people. I mean, I think we've all three of us have had a chance over the last 5 to 10 years, a chance to just meet a lot of wrestlers and come across a lot of cool situations. Yeah, we've had our chances or fair shares of like assholes and whatnot, but I think that a lot of people have been really cool. And surprisingly, in 2020, one of the people that's proving to be cool despite all odds has been Randy Orton. I don't get that face turn. That has been a face turn both socially, publicly, and privately from conversations that we're having in our chat where he's commenting on my friends like hoodies and shit, just being all cool at like events they were at where they met him and bumped into him. I'm blown away by some of the stories I've heard recently about Randy Orton.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And then also he's a Mandalorian fan apparently, so you can't get too mad at him. Yeah. He's like, I know I just burned Bray Wyatt alive and you shouldn't trust me, but you should watch The Mandalorian. I was like, holy shit, that's a tweet.
This is a completely unsponsored plug. No even hashtag really ad. I'm just saying, I watched that shit for the first time. It was fire.
I might have pooped in someone's bag, but you guys should watch The Mandalorian. Look, all these recommendations. Bring them on, Randy.
I kind of wish he did say it was fire, Derek, by the way.
Yeah, I wish he said it was fire too. That would have been the perfect way to end it. He did light Bray Wyatt on fire in a way overproduced match where they've overthought themselves. I missed
it entirely.
Did you really?
Yeah, they after the Kevin Owens and Roman match, they kicked into a commercial for Broken Skull Sessions. I'm like, well, that's the end of the show. They're playing Broken Skull Sessions now. I turned it off. And then
I've heard several people say that. As a matter of fact, Mega Ran thought the show was over after the AJ Styles Drew McIntyre match, which I believe was the first match of the night, and just gave up on the pay-per-view after that, came over to my house. And I was like, yeah, I'm about to turn it on right now. Like, no, ridiculous. there's like 6 more matches. It's weird.
How was it?
It was really weird. Like, I definitely enjoyed the fact that they made the arena all crazy with like flamethrowers all around, like mixed in with the screens of fans and just everywhere. There was a ridiculous amount of fire just shooting up from everywhere.
Ridiculous.
My biggest complaint was the fact that after Randy Orton basically eventually gets over on Bray Wyatt, he then douses him with like lighter fluid and like lights the body on fire, and it's the fakest looking shit you've ever seen in your life, just laying there in the middle of the ring. And I don't understand why. I don't understand how they either don't have better special effects to have what looks like an actual Bray Wyatt body laying there.
Oh, the dummy work was bad?
He is wearing a mask. It wasn't even a dummy. It looked like when someone, sneaks out of their room and wants to stuff their bed so that they look like they're still sleeping there.
Description.
So they grabbed like a sweater and stuffed it with his shirt. I don't fucking know. It's awful.
Yeah,
it was awful. It wasn't a dummy. That's what I'm saying. You couldn't have fabricated a life-size fucking Bray Wyatt. They gave it the same treatment Sami Zayn gave the Sammy Awards. It was a fucking action figure spray painted gold, hot glued to the top of a black tin can. That's basically what they did with Bray Wyatt's body.
That's
for
hilarious.
The dummy that they had Randy Orton fucking light on fire.
I had heard people complaining it looked shitty, and then I saw Bray Wyatt on fire as he was like running into the ring. Well, that doesn't look that bad.
That was different.
Motherfucker's on fire.
That was a different part, but that was awesome.
Yeah.
They did light Bray Wyatt on fire, so there really was a portion of the match where Bray Wyatt was on fire.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely more than the time that Kane just had his arm lit on fire in order to lose the match.
Yeah, he's just like all scared.
Yeah,
look at my arm; it's on fire.
Yeah,
stupid ass Kane.
I felt like that was sufficient. Having Bray Wyatt like be on fire, I thought that was the purpose of the match. They just needed to go.
Randy has to be a murderer.
Oh, they needed to go the extra step, right? Yeah.
What's the evolution of the Bray Wyatt character? He was posting pictures of chrysalis and bugs on his Twitter, so like he's not really selling this injury so much.
I don't fucking know, man. I don't know. I don't really care right now at this point. I'm sorry, but I've lost interest in Bray Wyatt. I really blame mostly.
He's got too many hats on.
I blame Alexa Bliss. You know,
She is really annoying in that role. I
It's
didn't like her this
not-
most recently when she was on like the play set and then it like teleported into the ring. I was like, okay, that's lame. And then she's just like saying her lines with this blank, goofy.
it's literally the same feeling. And I know I've given this analogy before about the boyfriend with the girlfriend you don't like, but it feels that same way to me as a wrestling fan. I feel like I'm trying to like it because it should be good, but it's not, so I don't like it. And I blame her for breaking up the Beatles. You know what I mean?
She's Yoko?
She's the Yoko in the scenario, you know, with the pig and the rabbit.
No.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Right.
She feels like the Yoko. She came in later. Well, John was the genius, you know. By the way, there's a new documentary about the Beatles that's eventually going to hit Disney Plus like next year, and they gave a little 5-minute preview of it on Disney Plus, and it looks outstanding. Mostly,
I will definitely tune into that.
Mostly because it's the Beatles like having fun and like recording shit and making jokes. Like it's totally like B footage of them just hanging out and being like normal people, and it just looks really enjoyable. So I want to
geek out for the Beatles for 1 second. Paul McCartney was just on Howard Stern, and he was talking about writing the song "Help" with John, and how at the time it just felt like a fun poppy song. But if you listen to the words, it's really a guy desperately asking for somebody to help him. And that's what really John was at that time. Like help, I need somebody.
Yeah.
But it really sounds upbeat if you like, help, I need somebody. But then you listen to the words, like, it's really like a guy like, anybody, I need someone, help. And like, oh, but yeah.
Yeah, like
it gave you a whole different feeling about the song.
It's literally a cry for help. Literally a cry for help.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, but it's, you know, I feel like it's the inspiration for that Rick and Morty episode where he gets turned into like the kid.
Oh,
he's at the school dance. And he's like, "Help! I'm trapped." And he's literally just saying things like that, and everybody's like, "Yeah, this is a jam."
Yeah, that's pretty good. Good. Oh man, I love that episode. Tiny Rick.
I guess my Beatles story is not my own, but I'm going to steal my wife's. For some reason, when my wife was a small infant, she was on a plane with her parents, and Paul McCartney was on the plane. And as he walked by, he told my parents how cute my wife was as a baby. And then
your parents?
Not my parents. I'm sorry, her parents. I confused that story.
Okay.
Told her parents how cute she was as a baby.
Hey, look at your baby. It's really cute.
Yeah, and then
Ben, what are you doing to the baby?
Then, in a really creepy way, later came over and asked if he could hold her. And of course, because it's Paul McCartney, he could do anything he wanted. So they were like, "Yeah, here you go. Here's our kid."
Hey,
and then he like started showing the stewardesses how cute my wife was. As
hey, look at this child here. Look at this ticket from first class.
It's exactly something like that. Later sold my wife online. You know.
It's eBay.
Wait, not online. I'm sorry.
But now
I ruined that joke with technology. All right, what else we got? Josh,
I love riffing. Keep riffing.
Josh.
Yeah.
What else do we got?
Oh, is it my turn now?
I don't know, man. I think we talked about TLC. I mean, that match was garbage,
Cool.
but the rest of the show was a lot of fun. To be honest, I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
It sounds like I'm gonna have to turn on TLC tomorrow while I'm doing some work in the background. So
definitely check that out.
All right,
and I'm sorry you have to work on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's fine. I got no reason to take it off because my wife has to work. So
with you, brother.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I just wanted to take us through kind of like a quick retrospective, and when I say quick, it's not gonna be quick. But take us through a retrospective of 2020 and like some of the major moments that happened in pro wrestling, of course, because that's what this podcast is about. So I'm going to take us back, and we're going to start off at the Royal Rumble. Number 21 at the Royal Rumble was a moment that blew all of our collective minds. It's when Edge returned. This thing that I don't think any of us could have possibly imagined would ever happen. Like we saw the whole Daniel Bryan thing go down, but Edge was like that one case where you felt like you were gonna cry about it forever. Like he just never got to say goodbye the way he wanted to. And hey, there he was at the Royal Rumble, and then it turned into a whole thing. Like that was just I don't know. Like all the things we've been through in 2020, there's been a lot of bad, but that was just a moment of like just legitimate joy across the world, the wrestling world.
And I think it was within the last 12 months. It's insane. Like that feels so long ago at this point.
This year.
It feels like a lifetime ago. Absolutely. Years ago.
The best part about it is what you were saying about we never thought that would happen. Even when the rumors were happening a couple months ahead of time that Edge might be cleared medically, I was like, well, there's no way he's gonna wrestle. He might come and get physical or something, but he's not gonna have a run. But yeah,
I remember getting mad about someone getting like using a picture of him working out as like proof that he was getting ready to come back, and I remember being like, what? So the guy can't work out just because he's going to be working out? That means he's ready for wrestling?
Yeah, like he stays in shape for a TV show and stuff. No, I remember when people were putting those rumors out there, and I'm like, you guys are idiots. Because like Edge would like shoot him down on Twitter. I'm like, you guys are stupid. There's no way. This is like CM Punk's coming back, right? Come on.
Yep. Yeah. It didn't feel real. His departure didn't feel real. You know, I still remember. I remember the succession of events, and it happened so quick, and it was like fresh off a pay-per-view, and then I think he speared Umaga, and then I think that shit was a wrap, if I'm not mistaken. But like on the next episode of SmackDown, you know, it was like so quick. He was here, and then he was gone. He was at the like literally at the pinnacle of his career, and then gone.
That's one of the moments watching wrestling where I actually teared up, man. Like him saying goodbye.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And then you kind of feel weird, like, man, I like wrestling a lot. I really like pro wrestling. This guy, I don't know this guy at all, but his situation in life is killing me.
You know what the thing about it is, though, that I think we all have a pretty good grasp of what's going on here with pro wrestling. Sure. With these guys. Yeah. We that's why, you know, we cheer for especially these guys that we know in a personal way that came from like a small wrestling promotion that worked their way up to being, you know, with a company as big as WWE and living their dreams. You know, it's just a beautiful story, and wrestling is kind of like that when it comes to athletics. You know, it's a lot like the story of some, you know, athlete, regardless of sport, that just gets an opportunity to go from being this person, you know, playing sports in a minor league and an arena league, you know, college, whatever, you know, fulfilling their dream and living it out right before our eyes. You know, wrestling's beautiful like that. I think that we also know that it's not given the respect that it deserves. So like when these guys hurt themselves and they have to leave at a young age like that, it's just a reminder of how dangerous it is and how quickly it could be over for any of these performers.
I also think because Edge was a wrestling fan who became a wrestler, I think we connect with those guys even more. You know what I mean? The guys who were fans, like, you get it, man. Yeah. You get it.
But when you talk about the tears, right? When you talk about the tears from him leaving, like the tears of him,
the return tears,
were just as much, man. That moment where he took it in at the Royal Rumble, that moment where he just stopped and looked around. And he's even admitted that, like,
I got the goose pimples again, guys.
Yeah, man. I mean, he wasn't even going out there to do that, but he just had to take that moment, and we all saw that look in his face. We've all had that look in our face when we've been like to a wrestling show that's as big as WrestleMania for the first time, and you like see how big it is.
Overwhelming, yeah.
Yeah, but it was different level, man. It was him just realizing that this is happening. This is real. This is it, You know,
I can remember when we ran into each other on the floor in Dallas, dude. It's just like,
oh yeah,
look at this.
Look at this. Look at us.
Look
Who
at
would have
us.
thought it?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I mean, WrestleMania is just amazing because of the scope of it. You know,
Yeah.
we've all watched wrestling shows.
Well, even he was at the Royal Rumble. That's still a huge event.
Well, that too. Because it was at Astros at the baseball field in Houston. It's incredible. You know, it's an overwhelming thing because it's a huge arena that fits a lot of people. Yeah. You know, and just to have all those people out there cheering for you and for that moment to be real.
You're coming out strong, Josh. This could potentially be moment of the year, honestly.
Honestly, yeah. Well, so this isn't meant to be like a countdown of moments or anything. I'm literally just kind of like going back, and then we'll catch back up to today, sort of in chronological order.
Sure. But going back to what Beek was saying, yeah, you're right, because of the fact that like this year has been stifled by, you know, COVID. And so the COVID pandemic has made it hard to have moments like that live up to that. I think wrestling is just one of those things where the crowd and everything is so important to it.
So crucial.
It just none of that, nothing else is going to feel that way because of the emotion and the crowd and everything that went into that moment. That moment's so special, and we just didn't get many of those this year. You know, it was such a short period of time.
Wrestlers
before it
playing
all wrapped
fans
up.
is not the same. Wrestlers pretending to be fans is not the same.
They're really bad at it. They don't get the chance right or nothing.
I, for one, am glad that we got much less of that as the year went on. Mm-hmm. But that actually brings us to the next moment that I was going to mention is, we had Edge return at the Royal Rumble, the huge crowd, all that stuff. The next big thing in WWE was WrestleMania, and WrestleMania had obviously a very different look this year. You know, it was a two night event. That's something that we've been sort of clamoring for a while now. But you know, obviously there was no crowd, and this is before they even like tried to experiment with like wrestlers as a crowd. It was just no crowd at the arena. Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. The cinematic matches in particular, in my opinion, at least at that event. We'll talk, I think, a little bit more about how they went as they went on, but overall WrestleMania this year, it just wasn't the same.
It wasn't absolutely not. It's fucking dumb. It's weird. It's dumb. It's just not. I mean, I'm glad they figured it out, right? They had to figure something out to give a different atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'm still not really satisfied with what WWE particularly landed on, mostly because of the weird white noise, crowd noise that they use during, you know, their shows during right now. Like, I don't like that. I will say, though, that even that is better than the empty arena with nothing. It was just not WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
Dude, the whole time you're just like, okay, this just feels off. It doesn't feel like WrestleMania. It even more so felt like just another show. But I did like the cinematic matches. I'm not gonna lie. The
cinematic matches were great. Yeah.
That stuff was good. And I honestly can't recall everything, but I know there was probably a couple of good matches on the show. But you still left feeling flat with no crowd and no Gaga. No, we were all hoping for a gigantic pirate ship to be there, and we didn't get anything like that.
Jump off of it.
This next year, man, it's well, maybe. Right?
We'll see, right? No, but you're right though. Like, it's such an important factor, and you know, I think even at the time we were like, well, you know, at least they're gonna have it like without a crowd. I mean, whatever, it's cool. We can adapt to it. I don't remember being able to really like pay attention much to anything, you know. So it kind of gave me the same experience sometimes being there in the arena where I'm just kind of like distracted by other stuff going on. I was distracted by other things that weren't wrestling because I just couldn't watch it without the crowd and without, you know, just that atmosphere.
You wanted to get super jazzed for Drew, but you're all, it's like, okay. I mean, like, it almost felt like a it almost felt like it was expected that was going to happen too.
Yeah.
So you kind of took it out. Yeah, this year's WrestleMania was a kind of a bummer.
Right.
But enjoyable on its own end, I guess.
Yeah, it was sort of a little bit of both. Like I remember like in the week or 2 or 3 leading up to WrestleMania, like we were all speculating as to what exactly was going to happen. And to be honest, it was kind of a nice diversion because everything else at the time was, where's COVID spreading? What were the cases like in your neighborhood? All that other stuff. So
it was a nightmare at the time, and then nothing else was going on. All other sports, everything else had halted.
It was all shut down. Yep, the NBA had shut down. Tom Hanks got sick. Like this is the time frame when all that was going down.
When Tom Hanks got sick, that was the end of the shit.
That was so funny how everyone got super concerned. Like Hanks, not Hanks,
not Hanks.
I mean, honestly though, too, he got it early, and if he wasn't who he is, like in being able to get the type of medical attention,
he got that Regeneron.
Yep.
Fantastic. But you mentioned Jeremy, and I think that's the next point I wanted to take us to is Drew McIntyre, the man of the people, and this being the year of him. I think it's unfortunate that it's happened now, but at the same time, me speaking as someone who hasn't watched all of WWE particularly closely this year, just looking at what Drew McIntyre has done, won the Royal Rumble, which is obviously an amazing moment. Winning at WrestleMania, as weird as it was still freaking huge and pretty damn cool. But then, he's in his title runs, he's defended against Big Show. Well, he beat Brock Lesnar to start with. Like, let's not gloss over the fact that Brock freaking Lesnar. He defended against Big Show, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton, Robert Roode. Apparently, I missed that one. And then now he's got it again. He beat Randy Orton to take it back to become a 2-time champion. He's he defended against AJ Styles, possibly The Miz. We'll see how that's qualified, but I think it's been a heck of a run that they're putting together, all things considered. I'm very excited to see him be the huge babyface that he seems to be in front of an actual crowd.
I think that's the biggest thing is I'm really proud of the way that he's adapted to the situation. And I think it's unfortunate because I don't really feel like the modern perception of him is valid without an audience. I think he especially was getting really good at when all of this started, he was getting really good at getting the crowd behind him. He had a lot of babyface qualities to him, and he was just doing a great job at interacting with the audience. This sucks because, it's not a true indication of success in any way, shape, or form in pro wrestling without an audience. Even the viewing audience is kind of left a little bit, confused by whether or not they liked what they saw or didn't like what they saw sometimes based on the fact that there's not a crowd. So the crowd really, just takes so much out of it.
It's like the thing in sitcoms with laugh tracks and all that. It's like you're watching it on TV and you're like, wait, was that funny? I don't know.
Was it? I don't know. I needed somebody to tell me if that was meant to be funny or not. But I do think Drew's done an awesome job. And I think the one thing is that I feel like he's probably had to adapt quite a bit to this situation, which is only making him better. And when he's in front of an audience again, I think he's going to kill it. You know what I mean? It's one of those situations where he's, in some ways, he's a very typical babyface, right? In the modern era, you kind of have to come up with creative ways to be a babyface. John Moxley arguably has been one of the best baby faces in pro wrestling because he wasn't a true baby face, but he was a face, you know what I mean? And he was this gritty, as we saw in that amazing black and white picture that's been going around lately, a cigarette smoking, Jack Daniels drinking motherfucker that was a champion and just hard fighting, doing the right thing at times, but just being that, being very stone cold Steve Austin, like, in his own way, without
Drew
coming off as being...
was a little bit edgier before the babyface run, but he hasn't gotten corny.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he dropped some of the edge. Like they're not calling him the psychopath anymore. They're calling him the warrior. He's not as cocky, like dickish. He's still cocky, but like in a confident, champion type of way. So yeah,
right.
You easily can become corny and hateable when you become the babyface champion.
Right.
I don't think that's happened to him.
Right. And he's not doing it without resorting to some of the stuff that Moxley, for instance, does to be cool, right? Which is cursing and drinking and doing some of that shit, right? Mm-hmm. Like that stuff's kind of obvious. Like, you know, it still doesn't change the fact that Moxley has been outstanding in his role and has been exactly, you know, kind of what a babyface needs to be in the modern era. You can't really do this white knight shit, you know, anymore. People just don't. It's too hokey. You know, people want
Drew's
Batman.
Getting away with it somehow.
Superman. Drew is getting away with it, and Drew, you know, really because Drew continues to have an edge to him. You know, just a slight edge, just something where he
carries a sword. He's got two edges.
That's the edge. You son of a bitch. That's the edge.
Oh, I say things.
You say funny things. Glad to have you on this podcast. That's the moment of the year for me is adding
thank you for having me.
Podcast.
Oh, appreciate it.
Oh, I love it.
With Paul McCartney.
Where all these impressions are coming from.
I do them normally, but they always come spontaneously without intending to do them.
I love it. All right. Well, so I think we kind of like took Drew's moment back in April and we've extended it. You know, it is what it is, and again, I'm curious to see, and I'm excited to see, frankly, I should say, you know, when we do have crowds again with him.
I would, you know, even like NXT has the audience behind the glass and the stuff. Like, I would just love to see Drew in front of that. Like, I remember for a period of time when they had people in the audience or whatever, wherever Drew was in front, you know, wasn't there a period of time where Raw had like people out?
I think they had the wrestlers out there
at
for
the
a little
performance
bit.
center, right?
Yeah.
And Eric Bugenhagen was one of the guys that was like playing air guitar out there when like Drew would come out, he'd be fucking hitting it all hard. And I just remember Drew like, you know, cheesing off that shit. Like, I just can't wait to see him be able to like jump into a crowd of people, you know, and just be that guy, because that's really who he is. And that's, to be honest, that's the key factor I think that's missing in everything with his championship is like he's just, as Josh and I can attest to with him personally, he's just the fucking nicest guy we've ever met in pro wrestling, right? And like that's just a quality of his that has yet to really come across, because he needs to be badass and tough with wrestlers. But man, that guy would fearlessly jump into a crowd of people and fucking body surf all the way to the top of the arena if he could.
It's always, when you see fans losing their shit, you're like, oh, okay, I can see what's going. It's like Beatlemania. You know, everyone going crazy for the Beatles. Like, there must be something about these goddamn Beatles.
Oh man, when I saw people crying and shit, I was like, what the hell is their music like? Is it addictive? Am I going to be okay to listen to it?
I guess going back to April, just, you know, I want to take us all there mentally again. WrestleMania just happened. It was weird as shit. Really, a lot of places where we live, like, we were under like a lockdown of sorts, you know, like we were asked to not really leave the house, not really do much of anything. All the non-essential businesses were shut down. Like, it was a time, like, things were hard. We were going through emotions and shit. And somewhere in the middle of that, WWE is like, we're gonna like fire 20 people. And it was just a reckoning. And it was madness. Like, you know, you mentioned some names earlier, Gallows and Anderson. We have Rusev on the list, Zack Ryder, Mike and Maria, although they probably wanted out anyways. Rowan and Logan and EC3, Leo Rush, Kurt Hawkins, Eric Young, Heath Slater. The list goes on. Mike Kyoto's in there somewhere. I think he would, you know, there were people who were furloughed for a bit, but yes, they were eventually let go later in the year. Good handful. have moved on. They've landed in Impact. Some others have landed at AEW. Like, there's that. But in that moment back in April, it was, as a wrestling fan, and you talk about, Drew and like how we've had our connections with him, and we've met a lot of these other guys too, and just all of a sudden we're like, shit, man, all these guys are out of work in this environment. That was fucked up.
Yeah, it's fucked up because I think the feeling there was, when you talk about, at least in 2020, it was the first step towards me being like, you guys don't really care about people. I think a lot of these emotions started around, like with like a lot of people, the Saudi Arabia stuff. Then we saw their treatment of people who were accused abusers vary from person to person depending on their value to the company. It seemed like how valuable they were was depending on if they would take action against certain people based on whatever accusations are being out there.
Yeah,
I don't really know, because we don't get told the conclusion of some of this stuff, right? We have no idea really, so we're just left to speculate about things like that. But these are where my feelings of resentment for WWE started to, fester and get bigger. A company that we later heard about how much in profits they were still making.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Decided to release these people mid-pandemic, knowing the awkward and terrible position it was going to put them in. People who they poached, essentially from other organizations, other wrestling promotions, because they were popular and making money for them at the time, right? When you talk about Luke Gallows and Anderson, Carl Anderson, when you talk about EC3, when you talk about a lot of these guys, Eric Young, these guys were all making money for some other promotion. It's weird because now we're in a position where they've kind of fallen back into place, a lot of them with the same promotions they were with. And it feels right in a way. Mike and Maria being back with Ring of Honor feels right. Mike feels like, he definitely wasn't being utilized in the actual, way that he deserved to be utilized in WWE. And this is coming from someone that thought it was hilarious that he was being called Mike Kanellis in WWE. I thought that was fucking great. It was great.
Yeah.
I love their song. I thought they had a great, I thought it was off to a great start, and they just never went anywhere with it, which is the case with a lot of the people that were hired and introduced and asked to do some sort of fucking bullshit, gimmick or comedy thing.
No way, Jose.
Sanity.
They made reference to him tonight on NXT, and apparently WWE was interested in bringing him back, so he might be coming back. As far as mentioned furlough workers, the ripple effects were widespread, and they're still felt. People going back to either their companies or finding new homes, like Anderson going over to Impact with a great move.
Rusev on AEW.
Yeah, Rusev, great move. Hopefully they'll do more with him, because he clearly they know he's a tremendous talent. So let's get him out of this goofy "you broke my video game" angle.
That's dumb, but I will say this: I don't like that, but I will also say I like the fact that they're just letting him be himself instead of a stereotypical foreigner gimmick or something where he's like a silent brute or whatever, right? Sure. Like they know we know who Rusev is. They know we've seen him on Lana's videos and on Total Divas and all the other shit that he's been a part of, right? And we know he's hilarious and he's great. He's this very, to be honest, this very outspoken, flamboyant individual that's quite funny.
He's jovial. He's jovial.
He's jovial. And I feel like they're letting him be himself way more than WWE did.
Yeah.
But it's also not always the greatest results, like you said, with the stupid video game gimmick. It feels like too much.
And I don't like him being with Kip Sabian. Like nothing to take away from Kip Sabian. It just seems like a weird to make him almost second fiddle to this guy who is
it's
lower mid card and not even
right. And it's a limited gimmick, and their like entire relationship is based around video games. And
yeah.
I don't know. That feels like, to be honest, that feels like a storyline that was probably pitched to them by Kip Sabian and Rusev. Like that feels like they came up
Let's
to
do
it together. Yeah.
But I honestly, I'm bummed that the WWE did it. Completely unnecessary, as far as we could tell, based off of how the reportings of their income was made. But
no shit.
It might have been the best thing for some people. Free up them the opportunity to go over to Impact, or Mike go into ROH, reuniting the original Kingdom. I don't know. WWE hopefully hire some of those people back. Those guys, like the long-term guys that were there forever, that's crazy to me. Like Jerry Briscoe, like why do you fire old ass Jerry Briscoe? That's bananas. And then he comes back nice enough for the whole Pat tribute.
The biggest problem with the firings of everyone is it just felt like an opportunity for them to be like, oh, hey, we have an excuse.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what it felt
pandemic
like.
Going on.
Yeah. Instead of, you know, I don't know, standing by some of your long-term employees. Cuts happen every year. So I'm not surprised by that. But like Mike Chioda, for instance, that one was low. That one was low. You know.
And his reaction as time has gone on, you know, that we've heard him talk about it, and yeah, it's a bummer. And like as the year has gone on too, like it kind of brings us to, I guess it was last month, where they really started cracking down, WWE, on the side hustles. You know, no more monetizing your own Twitch and gaining a following and all that sort of stuff. Or, you know, all sorts of, you know, a lot of like the other things, especially, you know, especially this year, like I feel like they should be allowed to do certain things. But it's that whole thing where like they feel like they have to control every little bit of these people's lives who are contractors, by the way. I think the best thing to come out of at least this second part of the WWE being shitty to its quote unquote employees / contractors is the whole thing with Zelina Vega specifically, as she left her famous final tweet as a WWE employee. I support unionization, and the ripple effects of that. I'm curious to see if that's going to have any impact next year and beyond. I don't know. What do you guys think about that whole thing?
I think it sucks.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that these guys all make extra money based on the fact that they go into cities for all of these pay-per-views, and they all have signing opportunities, appearances where they make a cut of those signings. I think when WWE travels and goes to Raw and SmackDown on every different night in a different city and goes to the big cities or whoever for the pay-per-views, I think people don't factor in how much merch is bought and how they get a cut of that merch. Huge. People are not just randomly going to WWE or shopwwe.com to buy merch the same way they do when they, recklessly purchase it at an event because they're there and they just want something from that event and they want to buy their kids something from that event, and they're there, so they're going to spend the money and they don't care how much it costs. It's a completely different vibe, a completely different feeling from the fans about being there at a live event. All of this factors into the amount of money that these people are making. And they tried to supplement their income by starting up Twitch accounts where they could receive money from subscribers. And WWE needed to find a way to not only get in on that, but they need to make it theirs. They can't just say, oh, hey, contractually based on an agreement that you had that you signed, you owe us a percentage of the money that you make from this. And a lot of those people probably wouldn't be like, okay, cool, whatever. You know, I make a lot of money from it. So, I mean, I'm okay with giving you a percentage. You know, not to mention that they have to give Twitch a pretty decent percentage for running the show, you know, and it's one of those things that each time WWE does something like this, not to me as a fan, because they've already fleeced us over and over as fans, right? Not you're doing stuff now to your own employees, the people who you have invested time in making me care about. Now you're treating shitty, and I care about them because you made me care about them. And so now I hate you fucking more because you're treating the people you made me care about badly. Like, it's such a weird situation.
To me, I see why the WWE thinks, because they created these characters, that they are monetarily invested in it. So anything that they do outside should be something coming back to them. But guys, at some point in time, you have to let that go. These people in their own homes playing video games for fans to watch. It's them literally living their lives doing nothing but entertaining themselves for the entertainment of other people. You guys don't benefit, or you don't devalue or do not benefit from that. People watching that are going to go watch WWE.
Exactly.
It's not going to
another form of
take
marketing.
away. Exactly.
Yeah, they're working as marketers, like in that regard. They're putting themselves out there as part of the brand. They're not doing like bad things with it, you know. It's not like they're going out there and like, I don't know, like
maliciously saying slurs or being crazy assholes.
Yeah,
talking about QAnon
or there you go. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, I mean, it just sucks. I guess my main takeaway is I really do hope that something comes of it. You know, we have Andrew Yang talking about it. He's, you know, kind of at a certain point in his political career. You know, we've had the Screen Actors Guild actually acknowledge things. Yeah. And I'd like to see if their words, particularly like, I think it was like the president of SAG, tweeted directly at Zelina Vega and was like, "Hey, we need to talk." I hope that there's something real there and that they actually do take action, and it wasn't simply an empty thing on Twitter.
And one of the main things, the distinction with the Zelina Vega thing, is also the fact that she opened an OnlyFans and did so under a pseudonym, like to hopefully avoid WWE knowing about it, which of course they're gonna find out about it. I think maybe there's some sort of morals thing with them, maybe with an OnlyFans situation, that they might be able to press on the wrestlers, but still, why do it? Like, you guys at some point in time have to let it go. Come on.
I feel like at times they are antagonizing people into coming after them, and when it happens, it's not going to be good for them. So it's weird that they're antagonizing this shit. It's literally stirring up a hornet's nest, you know, as far as they're concerned, because they already have really questionable business tactics when it comes to having employees that they completely control as independent contractors, right?
Yeah.
Employees that they don't have to provide benefits for, and they don't have to, you know, care for the same way you would an employee versus an independent contractor. I still come back around to the John Cena thing. And I just wonder how John Cena became a person that was so willingly open to say that he is okay with paying WWE, you know, for the use of his own name. And I think that's the kind of brainwashing, even at times, that WWE does. John Cena believes in his heart of hearts that he wouldn't be the person he is without WWE. And he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that John Cena didn't do that for John Cena, right? Like, John Cena worked hard. John Cena was dedicated. John Cena fucking got his body into a godlike shape and was able to squat the fucking Big Show. WWE didn't squat Big Show. John Cena squatted Big Show, right? That got him over, not WWE. You know, WWE might let him be in that position. They might have put him in that, you know, at times, but they've done that with a lot of people and they still didn't deliver. John Cena delivered. So it's weird to have this stance where I understand where John Cena's coming from. I am a person that appreciates what companies, and opportunities have done for me personally. I appreciate the fact that Joshua Schlag sat next to me in fucking Google Lenses one day, fucking looking like a tool, and let me come on and be a part of this podcast eventually.
Oh, I did look like a
looking
tool.
like a tool.
I don't know. I need to take a swipe. But like it's things like that sometimes you do have to appreciate the fact that you wouldn't be somebody without them. I think the problem is that a lot of these pro wrestlers, especially the ones WWE has acquired as of late, Zelina Vega and AJ Styles, they would be somebody without the WWE. These aren't nobodies that fucking came up to WWE begging and with no experience and got trained by them and turned into wrestlers. So that's something that John Cena has that he could say about WWE. They made him when it comes to that. These people, AJ Styles, fucking Zelina Vega, they made a name for themselves before they came into WWE. They just became something else when they were in WWE, or AJ Styles didn't even have to change his fucking name. But yeah, like,
that's dangerous. John Cena's attitude is dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Other people will choose to have that mentality because they feel like they don't fall in line. Then that's detrimental for their career.
Well, and they look up to someone like him, right? Like he's somebody to look up to in this business. Yeah. So for him to have that attitude just is kind of it's a brainwashed bootlicker attitude to the corporation.
Yep. Also, we have to end this show with you saying, remember, John Cena squatted the Big Show.
That's right.
You said it so it was amazing.
I mean, that's the thing about it. Like, I still remember that night as a fan. Like, I don't remember a lot of nights as fans. Like, I don't remember events. I don't remember nights where I could be like, man, I was here at this person's house watching it. It was a wife's friend that from work that watched wrestling, and we got all excited because she was like, hey, I know somebody from work who watches wrestling and they want us to come over and watch Survivor Series. And that was the event that fucking John Cena squatted Big Show at. And I'll just never forget it because we celebrated when he did that shit in her living room like somebody had won the Super Bowl. We were all jumping up and down and shit. Fucking people were throwing chips and fucking, it was wild. It was a fucking celebration. Oh, it was nuts. It was nuts. And so, like, those are moments that WWE doesn't deliver anymore. Or, I mean, I don't know if they can deliver in front of a empty arena. You know, it's a cool moment that is paired strongly with the fact that there was a crowd full of people there also cheering. Beek got frozen in the most wonderful way right now. Where
he sure did.
Oh man, it's so good. I think he's gone, and that's amazing. I don't even want him to come back. I just want to look at that picture of him with his eyes closed, smiling for the rest of the time.
I just took a screenshot of it. All right, we'll see if Beek comes back. In the meantime, and I'll walk things back a little bit later if I need to, depending on his internet connection. But in the meantime, so we touched upon it a little bit, but just the way that things are presented, we've got the Thunderdome now, we've got the Capitol Wrestling Center at NXT. We've got like some stuff that's like sort of hybrid, like the Capitol Wrestling Center, where they actually do have some ticketed fans in attendance at those shows. We also have AEW at Daly's place outside of the football stadium. They've been doing their thing there. They've been letting fans in to various degrees for a while now. I mean, it's Florida, so things are kind of fast and loose down there with everything as far as COVID goes. And you know, whatever the relationship might be with WWE and the local government there. I guess what I'm trying to say is WrestleMania was supposed to take place in Tampa, and you know, now it's scheduled to take place in Tampa in 2021. I guess that pushes the Los Angeles WrestleMania back another year. There are going to be fans at WrestleMania. It's gonna be outdoors. They're probably gonna build a big old thing like they wanted to with the pirate ship. I don't imagine they're gonna pack that place with 80,000 people. But there will be fans, and there's going to be something. I'm curious to just like put myself in the future and be like, at what point does it feel normal again? Like, I don't know. Like, there's going to be something different between what they're doing now and when WrestleMania occurs. I just I don't know. It's one of those weird things where we're just gonna like start coming out of the woodworks again and returning to normal life.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, man. I know I haven't been the safest person, so I'm not the best person to speak on this. I've still been living normal life at random times. It doesn't mean that I don't go a month trapped in my house in between some of those moments, but every once in a while I have a reckless moment where I break out. I've used reckless 3 times on this podcast, by the way. I'm really excited about that. Or I just have a moment where I break out and do something that I probably shouldn't, and I find myself being that person that just says I don't care. I think that's why I get that. I don't villainize a lot of people for having the attitudes they have. I don't villainize people for necessarily being impatient or anxious or wanting this whole thing to be over. I really just, I think we all do. I think the thing is that some people don't realize that. I think some people think the rest of us that are going along with it are complacent and that we're sheep or whatever, and that they're the only ones thinking that no, we're all fucking thinking, but none of us want the mask. It all sucks. We all don't want to wear the mask. All of it's bad. Okay. But like I had a night that, as some of our viewers from Derek and Tim Eat Snacks may know, where Tim really attacked me for like 3 days straight for having this night, and it was worth it. It was, it's kind of like in this old Sinbad stand-up where he said, don't take an 11 p.m. beating. If you're going to take a beating, take a 5 a.m. beating. Stay out all night and earn that beating, right? And I did, because I went to medieval times. I ate fucking chicken with my bare hands. I rooted for the Green Knight, who fucking won, by the way. It was incredible. I'm looking for my Green Knight flag right here. It is. Fucking Green Knight. He was the fucking young buck. Dude came out wearing horns on his goddamn fucking knight. I was fucking doing young buck chants all night long. I felt alive, Josh. It was the first time. I mean, I've done things during this pandemic where I've gone out. I have not felt alive for a single night until this night going out.
Medieval Times is essentially a pro wrestling show.
Oh, it's so
with
great.
Armor and shit.
Yeah, but the first hour you get dancing horses and a meal. You don't get that shit at a wrestling show. Fucking prancing horses doing tricks, fucking crossing their legs.
No, but we should.
Dope. We totally should. We've just found a way to improve the Thunderdome. But yeah, no, I mean, that's it. Is I think we're all looking for the opportunity for this to return into some sense of normalcy, and
totally.
I think it's gonna be a little bit at a time until we're just all back to doing it. It was great to see. I think it was a concert in New Zealand where they had so many days without a single case of COVID, so they were allowed to like resume normal activities. Yeah. So they planned an outdoor festival concert. They went
our friends in Australia. I mean, it's not life as normal, but it's a lot closer to it than the shit that we've had for the last 9 months. Yeah, it sucks because it comes down to like people turn things into weird black and white issues, and like sometimes literally, but also like as far as this goes, it's either like you're all in on it and like you said, you're a sheep, or you value all of your personal freedoms and all these other things, and like we can hate it, but also just deal with it and do it because it is for the best. And if we all did it, look at fucking Australia, New Zealand, and Japan. They've got some things going on with their wrestling shows. Like, it is what it is. At this point, we've finally got to the point where we do have vaccines coming.
I think that was for me was the first sign that things are returning to some sense of normalcy, when we see all these people getting the vaccines, having it happen. just
and people that
getting
we
the process
know
going.
now, like if I if you know some people that work at a hospital or whatever, like all of a sudden these people are all getting it, and it's like, oh yeah, my friend's wife, and then this person's like, this is real, it's happening.
Yeah, it's real, it's happening, right? Like it doesn't feel so far off. But I will say that I give WWE a lot of credit. I think that a lot of different businesses, a lot of especially entertainment businesses, had to figure out a way to operate.
Yeah.
A lot of networks had to figure out shows to plug in when they can't go back to resuming a normal shooting schedule for their shows. Game shows became extremely popular for some reason, and easy to do, I guess, in a pandemic. And WWE found a really good way to like bring the excitement of the crowd back to an arena. I thought that their solution was pretty good. I really like the Thunderdome concept. I like all of the effects, everything cool that they do with it. I think the only thing, like I said earlier, that I'm not a big fan of is the unnecessary need to have like this piped in white noise. Like I feel like I've saw a thing on the NFL doing crowd noise at a thing, and their crowd noise is so much better. Yeah. How is it at this point they haven't brought in somebody from like the NFL or paid somebody a ton of money that can do crowd noise better? It's almost indicative of like, the 50 cuts that they have to do during an episode that we've complained about for so long. It's like I feel like even they know at this point that it's bad, but they're just like, oh well, it's just what we do now at this point. Same thing with the crowd noise. It's like, well, this is the crowd noise we have, so like there's no improving it. Like it continue to innovate and find ways to make the show better. The crowd noise is awful and it needs improvement, and it's really the big thing that's holding this back from being a enjoyable experience.
If they were to figure out at this point, it's too late. So
it's too late, right? It's way too late. But anyway, I still enjoy the Thunderdome. I was part of the experience one time. That part wasn't too enjoyable just because of the fact that they once again needed to overproduce the scenario. I did like being, in the Thunderdome and being one of the people on TV and stuff. That was cool. I didn't like the producer shouting at me all the time about what I needed to do. And it wasn't like react or let's hear it, tell me how it was always like, yeah, let's let them hear you, tell them you love them and stuff like that. Like it was always like this very directed and like if it was a bad guy, he'd be like, all right, let's hear you, let's hear those boos and stuff like that. Like, let's see those thumbs down. So that's why when you're watching the Thunderdome and you see a bunch of generic people in the crowd, same time, it's because those motherfuckers are being told exactly what to do by a producer unnecessarily. That's the shit that once again takes away from the natural way of a crowd reacting.
That's terrible.
You just can't control people like that.
No.
I think it was the Wild West early on when we had people showing up in fucking clan outfits and shit, whatever other rumors we saw or whatever things reportedly that there were, right?
People are going to try and get away with shit on live TV, and it doesn't matter whether you're calling in through Zoom or showing up live in the crowd. Like people are going to try and get away with shit.
I think it's going to be worse on Zoom just because you're just sitting in your house just doing some shit.
There are no repercussions to that. Right. Whereas just if you did it in real,
stand up and be wearing your underwear, whatever, that kind of thing.
Oh goodness. All right. So just a couple other things I wanted to bring up before we wrap this year up, essentially. The next one, we talked a lot about Drew McIntyre, but on the other side of the coin, we did mention, I guess, when you were talking about TLC, but the whole thing with Roman Reigns, man, like it's been a hell of a ride. It's one of those things where like they never turned Cena. And we always just wondered what would happen if they actually did that. And Roman Reigns, you mentioned him like as a baby face becoming, I don't think he specifically said his name, but when you said like baby faces have that danger of becoming corny and all these other things, the Roman Reigns just pops into my head because I'm like, it got tired. It was always the same. He said stupid stuff that was fed to him, and it was just like, he seems energized, and it seems like this is something that he's maybe wanted to do for a while. I mean, we always hear that pro wrestlers have the most fun as heels, but
Yeah.
damn, man, like he's owning it.
Being a babyface is lame. You know what I mean? Like, I think about it from my perspective as a very part-time pro wrestling manager.
Very,
I
very
don't
part-time.
I don't know what I would do as a babyface manager. Like, I don't know what I would do. I'd go out there and be like, yeah, this guy. Yeah. Like, I don't fucking know. But every idea I have is a way to fuck with the crowd. You know, the whole coming out and fucking throwing, throwing streamers for a guy that just me, not letting the fans touch it, coming out with a bottle of hand sanitizer before everybody touches my champion's hands, all the ideas I have are geared towards antagonizing people and being a dickhead. Like, I guess that's just me at my core, but I don't know what to say other than I think it's boring. I think being a baby face is boring. And I think everybody loves being a heel. I think that no matter how long you've worked in wrestling, you've already had experiences of kind of being fake if you're trying to be liked, versus being a heel. You could just really lean into your real feelings about, like, I don't know, any situation versus, having to hold back in any way. It's just great. Yeah, totally. It's fun. This is different though. This is like what was meant to be. And again, what I said earlier was, I don't know if this was a situation where we would feel the same way had we not gone through that period of time of Roman being forced on us and just forming this general opinion about him. But this just is such a natural, perfect fit for him. He embraces it, and you're absolutely right. Energized by it seems to be the perfect word, because he's just so into it. And he's so into the character. Like, it's perfect. I mean, It feels personal. It feels real. Paul Heyman there, the way he turned Jey Uso, everything is leading down a path for this just to keep snowballing and getting bigger and better as it goes along. It doesn't feel like something at this point that, at least for me, I can see a point in within the next foreseeable future where this is going to get stale, where this is going to be boring, where this is going to be something that we get sick of seeing. I feel like heel Roman Reigns has legs that could run for miles and miles, and have
really does
feuds with all sorts of different people.
I mean, like, so far, there hasn't been a lot. Like, he hasn't been feuding with a lot of guys. And it's mostly just been like laying the groundwork for his relationship with the Usos and with Paul at the same time. Like, there's a lot of complexities there. And at the same time, now he's starting to branch out. They're throwing in a Kevin Owens, and I don't know what's next. But, like, yeah, they could do this for a while, and it's really refreshing because, for the longtime listeners of this podcast and, probably like-minded wrestling fans, like, we know that we've gotten frustrated in the past where it's just become, like, champions have runs and it seems like monster of the month and, like, just going from blah to blah to blah, but, like, there's no long-term arc, and it's like, why should we care? Why should we become invested? Every new rivalry that he has seems to just, develop his character a little bit more, and you start to see another side of him a little bit, and it just keeps on going. Like, that shit is awesome. I love when we see that, and I understand that they can't do that with everything, but I love that they're giving this the attention that it really deserves.
It's incredible. And you're right. Like, that's the problem where with Drew at times with his championship run, is that's just what it felt like. Felt like Drew was just this champion and they were going to feed him person after person. And until he got to Randy Orton, it didn't feel like there was a single actual viable competitor, and Randy Orton became that. And then Randy Orton eventually did beat him, so it was like, felt like that was the person who was going to do it,
Sure.
it just didn't. You're right. It didn't have that same level of intrigue. It doesn't have that same level of story building. I haven't seen this in a long time when it comes to a champion, because typically when someone becomes a champion, we've already seen that story played out, which is how they got there, right? They fast forwarded to his championship reign so quickly that there was no story built. It was just this, asshole coming out, not even wrestling the whole match, waiting until these two guys beat each other up for, a good 15 minutes before he even shows his face in the match. And then he just comes in like he did at the previous show and just kind of wants to fucking rain down upon everybody and clean up the mess and walk off with the championship. He did exactly that. And ever since then, he's just been this ruler, this king. I think that lack of needing to tell that build up to him winning the championship was a big part of why we get to see this story unfold now, slowly before our eyes as the champion. That sudden championship acquisition wouldn't have been possible without his pedigree, right? Which is those years of him being champion over and over again before he got to this point.
That's true.
And disappearing for a little bit, taking enough of a break where it made even the most staunch Roman Reigns hater go, yeah, I kind of miss him a little bit. And then that's the minute that he fucking showed his face again. But this time, as the badass, arrogant, dominant heel that many of us always wanted to see. It's been a joy to watch, and it's been easily the best thing WWE has done storytelling wise this entire year.
Yep.
Sami Zayn being a close second to that, because Sami Zayn's amazing, but that's just because Sami Zayn's fucking awesome and he does everything, and Sami Zayn is giving us what you want, which is a character and a story and making everything into something. And I love Sami Zayn.
There's a solid core of wrestlers on the roster this year who are taking the opportunity that COVID is presenting them and running with it. Yeah, there's Roman Reigns, there's Randy Orton, there's, I would say to a fair degree, Drew McIntyre. And I would also, you throw Sami Zayn in there. I'd say Bayley as well. Her heel turn is one that I would not have necessarily expected, and she has run with that pretty nicely, I think. Like, she's
I love Aunt Pam.
Yeah, exactly.
She's
right?
The best. Fantastic.
It's been one of those things where it's like, well, how the heck are they going to make her any different? Cut the hair off. Okay.
That's right.
Got it.
Cut the hair off, change the music, call everybody a ding dong.
Exactly. Like, she's still kind of like that, she's still kind of that same dork, but now she's like got power and she's angry. She's an angry Karen and she has power.
She's the dork that's like at school who like insults you and you're like, really? Does she have room to talk? Wait, what the fuck? Why didn't she just call me a fucking ding dong? Yeah, no, she's great. And she continues to be great. Sasha continues to be great. I think that I still think at times that, they suffer from being spread too thin between the two shows and having two different rosters and all of that. I think that they strongly also kind of shoot themselves in the foot with this ecosystem where they expect us to be excited about the Raw SmackDown crossovers or when NXT people show up or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's never going to have the same impact, as AEW crossing over to Impact, as we saw with their champion Kenny Omega becoming the talk of the world recently. That kind of stuff that AEW has the potential to still do is still so much more exciting than anything WWE could ever do. It doesn't matter who they work with. Even small companies, which you could consider Impact a small company, but if AEW crosses over and starts working with Ring of Honor, that's fucking awesome. If AEW out of nowhere just picks up and starts fucking being like, hey, we're going to go attack Defy Wrestling in the Northeast or Northwest, we'd be like, hell yeah, that's fucking cool. Yep. New Japan could definitely be on the radar of AEW, and I'm still a strong believer that we're going to see that partnership.
I believe that's the end game to all of this. Like, I see the Kenny Omega stuff and I see Don Callis involved, and I'm just like,
He's going to be the belt collector, man.
They're still, yeah, and
it's the expedition of gold, but better than ever. Basically, he's going to literally go across all wrestling promotions that aren't WWE and acquire all their championship belts.
Well, and none of these guys, to my knowledge at least, are, it's not like they left New Japan on bad terms, and so I have no reason to rule any of this out. And honestly, it's the thing that gets me the most excited about an alternative to WWE, which honestly, I think just long term, I personally just kind of need it, at least until the elder McMahons have moved on. Literally, I guess I could say. Yeah. Because we know that Vince is never going to quit his job.
He's never going to quit. He's going to die in that fucking chair and gorilla with a headset on.
Yeah, and pour one out to the things that he accomplished, but also be like, all right, we're on to a brand new day.
Man, it sucks because they have this hold over the wrestling industry as a whole, and they really do control things. They dictate things. They even influence other businesses to run in a similar way that they do, because you can't argue with it. They've had success. Instead, there's a different, better way, and I think AEW has been consistently trying to do things in a better way, but it's hard because you just can't. It's hard to break out of the established way that wrestling shows and things are done, and it takes time for them to kind of move in that direction. I also think that they are a little, I don't know, I think they're a little cowardly, and I think they're a little bit like a politician who promised a lot in the election, and then once elected, now they're going to kind of ease off on some of those policies that they were so strong on. So I'm not completely freeing AEW of blame, but I also know that Rome wasn't built in a day. And I know AEW is just trying to do things in a better way. They've tried to take care of their talent in a better way, and it seems like they are. It seems like everybody's getting paid very well and is happy. They've said that they're going to give an opportunity to young, undiscovered talent. And holy shit, I mean, Danny Limelight, from who I interviewed on my Minutes with the Mayor podcast just a couple months ago, now getting opportunity on AEW Dark versus Phoenix, right?
Dude,
like
all
the way that
guys,
on Dark that they fucking give guys a shot, it's just super cool.
Yeah, like it's literally made stars, and I feel like it hasn't always been the plan with a lot of these guys. Like they've had an opportunity on Dark, they got attention, and it's like, okay, now we actually need to do something with this guy. I forget the guy's name. I think he was based out of Texas. We've seen him in Arizona a handful of times. He's now
Ricky Starks.
Yeah, Ricky Starks.
Ricky Starks is amazing on TV. Like he was made for TV, right? And like we knew that here in Phoenix. Like you and I had that conversation one time about me telling him that he was like the only guy there that was like ready for the big time, because he just seemed on a different level at that time, just so much better than all the other talent at the show. He stood out like a sore thumb when it came to his, level of talent and his character
and charisma and just everything. Yeah, that dude had presence, and I'm stoked to see like opportunities like that come about. I guess I'm in a similar boat as far as AEW. Like, obviously we're all excited when it first started, when the word got out and all that stuff, and they were doing like their special events, and then after a while I kind of just backed off, and I haven't kept a super close eye on them either. I think just in general I've walked back, but I do like the things they're doing, and the stuff with Impact right now, it feels almost like just to a degree sort of like an NWO-ish thing, where they're sort of like just putting their hands on another brand or whatever. The little commercials with the Tonys,
they're like, fucking awesome. They're awesome,
it's
dude.
Fantastic
Everything
stuff that they're doing
is so fucking good. Honestly, one of my favorite things was Scott D'Amore just being super excited about it, like just marking out about it and being like, the ratings are through the roof. Like, what's there to be sad about? This is great. Like, everybody should be happy. We're all getting more eyes on the product, like just such a real reaction, to that. Not some sort of fucking weird storyline thing where someone's like, oh, what are these guys doing here? I'm a mad, like to a degree, we got that from Rich Swann at the end when they wouldn't let him go out the same door that Kenny's thing was. But that was just more of a disrespect for the champion and showing how much they were just shitting on Impact and Impact's champion, Rich Swann. I found the entire thing to be incredible. I think there's some criticism I could throw Impact's way about how they handled the night, considering they knew so many eyes would be on the product. But the storyline and everything that they're doing has been super fucking cool. And AEW is finding a way to really hit their rhythm with these guys that I think that they were scared to do this stuff with early on because everybody would have screamed nepotism. Everybody would have screamed like, oh, the Young Bucks have the title. Oh, you gave the title to Kenny Omega out the gate. Oh, come the fuck on. You know, that's what everybody would have said because these are the guys that built AEW essentially. It took time to kind of lay the groundwork and do other things before they could move in this direction. But heel Kenny Omega is going to be damn near the best thing in wrestling next to Roman Reigns. And he might even surpass Roman Reigns for excitement when it comes to what he does, because he's an incredible wrestler. He's an incredible character. And I can only imagine where these fucking two together, him and Don Callis, are going to go when it comes to this situation, this pairing.
Totally. Yeah. It just from my perspective of, 2020 has been a hell of a ride. WWE's found ways to make things work, but really AEW, like with what they've done, both with bringing up their young talents, like really getting to a point where they're showcasing their core talent of Kenny and whatnot. But then
you need to tell me New Japan wouldn't jump at the opportunity to get Kenny Omega back in any capacity at this point, with how much those fans already know and fucking love him. Are you shitting me?
Yeah, of course. And with Moxley as the North American champion still to this day, and like all that, like there's interminglings and things that they're gonna want to figure out. All that stuff going on top of that, they found a way to bring Sting into the fold and have it be not terrible, at least so far. Interesting at the very least. Like they're doing a lot of things that are I think are going to get a lot more eyes on them. Not just pro wrestling fans. I mean, maybe some pro wrestling fans like me who are a little bit I don't know, waiting for WWE to do something better as a person, as a company. I don't know. But
Josh, I want to say something, and I want you to realize this. You are not waiting for anything. You are a scorned wrestling fan, and your wrestling fandom will never be the same as it was, because I think you are a good person, and I think you have a moral issue, much like I do, with a lot of the shit that WWE has done, especially over the last year. And I really feel like when I hear you say stuff, even at its core, you want to blame storytelling and other shit. But I don't think that's it. I think like it's easier for me to just say, fuck this, rather than keep getting disappointed by shit like the corporation fucking over its wrestlers, or I don't know, some of our favorite performers being fucking abusers in some way, shape, or form. I know that was a big turn off for me over the last fucking year as well, right? Like, Jesus Christ, man, it sucks what happened to wrestling over the last year. It needed to happen. It needed to happen.
Yeah.
People needed to be outed. The way people are treated, the way that the slimy behavior continues to go on from one city to the next, one training session to the next, one wrestling school, quote unquote, to the next. It needed to stop, but it also, it doesn't leave you in a position to feel like, all right, we cleaned up all the vermin, I'm ready to get back to enjoying the wrestling. No, the whole thing just feels a bit tainted and a bit dirtier than it did before. And at the same time too, I'm still excited to see this young, these young guys doing stuff. I'm still excited to see wrestling done in a different way. AEW makes me really excited. I don't know, I think there's nobody more perfect to be a metaphorical, example of 2020 than Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is absolutely problematic. Chris Jericho always does something right after he does something amazing and cool, he does something to instantly make me regret loving him.
Yeah.
You know, it's such an up and down with that guy, right? At the very least, I will say Chris Jericho is true to who he is as a person. He's unapologetic, and he will do whatever the fuck he wants and not really care about the consequences. He'll have people on there that are flat earthers on his podcast and entertain the ridiculous idea of flat earther, or, you know, sometimes even worse, you know, but at the same time, Jericho is who he is because he is a pretty open-minded individual that at the end of the day seems to give a lot of people their, you know, their opportunity to, you know, have a voice or say their piece or whatever. It's just at the same time kind of reckless, fourth time, to be doing it.
It's more than 4.
Is it more than 4? To be, you know, allowing some people to have a voice, you know. I don't know. It's a weird time. I had this moment where I had to explain to a friend, to her sister, why I unfriended her on Facebook. And that's kind of a very similar situation, just because, you know, she was a person that spread a lot of like coronavirus is a hoax theories, but she would put it out there in ways like, you know, we're all thinking about it, but nobody's really saying it. And it's like, yeah, no, nobody's fucking thinking it. I wasn't thinking it until I scrolled through and saw you saying, well, everybody's thinking it. And I'm like, nobody's thinking it. But now you have me thinking about it. And I don't want to waste my goddamn time when so many people have died and are sick from it, fucking even entertaining the idea that this shit is a hoax. Get the fuck out of here. I'm done with your shit. So like my theory there was I unfollowed her and unfriended her on Facebook so that I could remain friends with her, because by not seeing her post and stuff, I'm not forming this bad opinion, right?
Yeah,
so,
dude.
Marco, I stopped listening to his podcast.
Same.
It's not like his podcast was bad, but I just couldn't take the advertisements and the shit that all made me slowly start to dislike Jericho, because I felt like he was giving a voice to people that didn't deserve it. And honestly, his ads just seemed like they kept getting longer and longer.
And they're the worst.
Right. But like Jericho on AEW is so enjoyable, and I love his theme song, and he's just so much fun to watch. It's one of those moments where I kind of selfishly just disconnect the person from the thing and just watch them as the performer. As Beek would say if he was here, the art from the artist. The artist is this thing, and the art is this thing, and I can just appreciate.
If we wanted to go back to the last century of actors and actresses and athletes and all these people that like we hold up on a pedestal, and like we actually had a conversation with them and got to know them and the things that they stood for and all that, we'd be like, whoa, you know, like it's the thing that I've come to realize in 2020, at the very least, is this whole, I don't know, you hear the phrase ignorance is bliss. And I always heard that in like a condescending way, you know, from like a leader talking to, you know, a tyrant talking to like the peasants, you know, ignorance is bliss. Like, this is what you want. But like, in a lot of ways it is like there's restaurants I can't go to anymore because they're anti-maskers, or they, you know, they still believe Trump might have won the election, but like you know, and then I've seen,
you're like, God damn it, but they make such a good hoagie. Like, yeah, no, I mean,
dude, so far the best cinnamon roll and the best pizza I've found in Boise, like both of them, like they're not getting any more of my money. But however, I will say that Albertsons makes a pretty damn good cinnamon roll, so I'm kind of over the other one.
That breaks my heart because I know you, and you don't go to Albertsons for anything. You would go to like the most hole-in-the-wall bakery that no one ever heard of here. You would show me, and it would be the best cinnamon roll I ever had.
I live in the city of the headquarters of Albertsons now, and so when I go to Albertsons, like it's
does that make it better? Does that make it better?
Different
because the boss is looking right over their shoulder.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't think that's a bad theory.
I'm just saying, Albertsons has a legit bakery.
Yeah.
Anyways, but like, if I didn't have to know like these shitty stances that people have, like I don't need to know the political stance of the guy that's brewing the IPA that I really love. I mean, if they are good people and they support good things, then yeah, I do love hearing those stances. But like there's a lot of like shitty dangerous things out there, and like it's not the time to yap your mouth about that stuff. And I wish that I could just not know some of those things, and I wish that I could not know the things that WWE has done and all that, you know.
Right, especially small businesses during a pandemic. Like it's a weird thing to take a stance now when your stance should really be business, right? I mean, it's kind of that old adage that people that were way smarter than us once told us when they said, don't talk politics or religion in mixed company. And the reason why is because people get really fucking unnecessarily, erratically angry and just completely, divisive over those issues, right? There's two people who could be, totally having a great conversation or whatever and be like, hey, I'm Christian, what are you? Oh, Muslim. And it's like, oh, we need to fucking hate each other now. Like it's so fucking weird how that shit can fucking pop off,
It's the same God too. Like if you go like the origin of those religions, Muslim and Christian, it's all the same God. They just split off in different directions at some point.
More importantly, it reminds me of the time when I was high on my mind and on drugs, and I watched George Carlin tell me that, do you really think God is this little man in the sky watching everything you do? And I instantly felt like a small child finding out, the other thing for the first time, right? Like it's just one of those things that at times you're like, I can't believe how people let these weird things run their lives, right? Religion, politics, these are things that, you have to be aware of. You have to have your faith. You have to do your thing that respects whatever you want to do, whether you want to, whether you want to practice a religion or you don't, what religion you want to practice, you're completely in control of that. Same thing with politics. But the problem is that these things dictate your decisions in life from that point. So just because you want to follow a certain faith, now that faith dictates your decision making on your other stuff that you might feel personally differently about because you might have a reason to. Politics is the same way. These things are bad because of the fact that they dictate your life in a way where you no longer have control over it, right? You had a say in which political party you followed or which religion you followed, but now what you're following those, now they're like, all right, well, now you have to, you have to be against taxes and abortion, and you have to be against all this stuff. And you're like, well, no, I mean, like, actually I have a reason not to be. No, you have to be against that stuff. That's the way it is. These are the things that we do, right? Yeah. So that's a big problem with all of that shit. But then, like I said, people just get erratically upset and unnecessarily divisive over these issues. And it's the reason why I just don't understand why in a million years, like, a small business would fly a Trump flag out front or whatever. Feel how you feel. I'm not saying you can't. This is America, but also be smart about your business. If I was bussing, or I was waiting on tables and I was relying a lot on tips, you sure as fuck that I'm not going to fucking go over there and start a fucking argument with someone about some shit. Whatever you believe is what I believe, pal. Yep. You like the Raiders? I love the Raiders. My dad was a Raiders fan. What can I get you? That's the fucking way I would be. You know why? Because more than any of that shit, I love money, Josh. I love money more than politics and religion combined. Can't wait to sell out. I'm still waiting for the day for this podcast to lead to me selling out, but still hasn't happened after all these years. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening so far. I think we lost Beek permanently. Unfortunately, he is having an internet outage in his area, and he's sending us pictures of that because I think he doesn't think we believe him. But we love you, Beek, and we believe you. And I think it's time for winners of the week. I don't know how we handle this. Do we do winners of the year at this point, Josh?
I didn't even think this far ahead.
I really feel like we should do winners of the year.
Yeah, I think we gotta do our year-end Slammy Awards. No, we'll just pick one. Yeah, I think so. I think I gotta go.
No, please. No, you were about to go. So please, I felt like you were struggling there for a minute and then you started. So go ahead. Give me your winner of the year.
I gotta go Roman Reigns. I really do, for all the reasons we previously said. I don't need to add any more to it. I might buy a Roman Reigns shirt at some point. I don't know. I gotta see what they have these days.
Some good shirts. He's got some good shirts.
I'm interested.
You know why? Because the shit's cooler now, right? It's not, like really when you think about it, like the big dog thing. Yeah, we were calling him the big dog kind of as a nickname, but like, the whole thing just kind of grew out of control, and it kind of grew as a rivalry thing with the Undertaker about whose yard was it, and it's the big dog's yard. And then that wars. That yard wars. That's a classic steel cage bit. God, right there. We
should have made that into a shirt.
Yeah, we really should have. But anyway, they, that's kind of part of that, is like they never really evolved him out of that until this now. And now they have him as the tribal chief, the head of the family, head of the table, all of this shit. And it's all fucking awesome because it's new, it's different, it's fresh. You're absolutely right. I'm piggybacking on yours, and I'm giving Roman Reigns my winner of the year. I can't think of another better winner. I mean, to be honest,
2020, man. Who'd have
2020 has been such a fucking weird year, man. And absolutely out of nowhere, Roman Reigns came into our lives. And, I like you said, there's no more to say, but the storytelling has been the thing that's been the best. Everything he's done, even the gold gauntlet, is just chef's kiss. You know what I mean? Like, they've just done everything to really make him into, they leaned into the whole thing of him being like the chosen one, the golden boy. They just went hard into that, but they did it without the WWE's involvement. That's the cooler thing about it, is there isn't like a Triple H character or a Vince character over Roman being like, yes, we did choose you. No, it's like Roman did it on his own with Paul Heyman, and he took it. No one was giving it to him. He just took it, and now it's his, and he's the king, and that's awesome. It reminds me a lot of the season finale of The Mandalorian, not the episode, but the after season or after credits bit where Boba Fett goes in and fucking handles business and takes shit back that he fucking deserves. It was his birthright from the beginning a long time ago. Big time. Motherfuckers ain't taking Jabba's throne. I'm taking Jabba's throne. Roman came in and he took Jabba's throne. That shit was fucking awesome. Winner of the year. That's all I gotta say. That's my Mandalorian tie-in. And yeah, I would pull out the baby right now to put him on the Zoom call, but he's on top of my Christmas tree right now.
Love it.
We once again wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for listening to episode 431 of the Steel Cage Podcast. You can get us all on Twitter. Josh is at Schlag. Beek is at James Vanderbeek with a Jaims Vanderbeek. And I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. But of course, all roads lead to at the Steel Cage. Please shoot us an email. We promise we will list. We love them. We pass them around. We get excited about them. You can send us an email, podcast@thesteelcage.com. Also, check out our store, previously mentioned, thesteelcageshop.com. Christmas has passed, but you know what? Birthdays are coming up. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, all sorts of holidays come up you can buy people gifts for. I don't know. If you celebrate Three Kings Day like Puerto Ricans do, fucking get some Three Kings gifts. Go on thesteelcageshop.com and also go to Beek store at thepentagonzo.com. Not the Pentagonzo, but just pentagonzo.com. I'm already finding ways to fuck that name up, Josh. You made it as simple as shit. And
do I have to buy the pentagonzo.com now?
Probably. But yeah, we thank you guys so much for spending this year with us. I want to thank Beek and also our friend Neo for joining me on the podcast this year. Their presence has been an absolute welcome. They are some of the most enjoyable people I've ever worked with, because I've been stuck working with like Jared and Sprung for years,
and me
and this guy over here. They are fantastic, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have these guys as co-workers. I really appreciate them being a part of this whole thing. Josh, I appreciate you having me be a part of this thing. Thank you so much. And I really, the worst part about 2020 is that you moved away. That part sucks. Well, it didn't really happen this year.
That was
but
2019, man.
You know, but 2020 was fuck 2020. Let's get this year over with. They had that weird commercial on WWE where like 2021 came out and beat 2020 in a ring. And everybody doing moves against it. So let's make that happen and kick 2020's ass the fuck out of here. Thank you guys again so much for listening. And remember, kids, John Cena squatted the Big Show.